had made a trade yesterday for Genard Avery. What do you know about him, and what do you think he brings to the table for you guys?
Yeah, mainly the exposure I had was last year as a rookie. He did some productive things. He was gave him some speed off the edge, was a productive sacker. He wasn't playing very much this year, so it's hard, and they changed schemes. So a lot of times that happens when you have guys that are, sort of successful in one scheme. There's a coaching change. They maybe fit one scheme better than another, but we're excited to have him, and he's done some good things pass rushing, and we'll try to get him up to speed as quick as we can on stuff like that.
Is he see him as a defensive end because he's got some linebacker in his background as well? But
yeah, for us, more defensive end.
Is
for
he
sure.
strictly a sub-package type guy? How do you see him being used?
I don't know. We'll see where it goes, but he is strong. He's not the tallest guy in the world, but he is sort of thick and strong, and Brandon Graham's sort of the same way. So he's not quite as heavy as Brandon, but the way we play those edges, I think he can be successful in our run defense as well as pass. But all that's just, we'll get him in here, get him up to speed as quick as we can, and then best decide how to use that. And excited to have him, though.
You said the first few weeks that we can't read too much into the sack numbers, but are you seeing your pass rush start to be more productive now in these past few games?
I don't know. We missed an awful lot in this last game, so it's hard to really call it productive. But I think it was productive in a fashion of getting the quarterback off schedule, getting him off the spot, sort of taking certain, like a lot of times you look at the coverage and say the coverage broke down here, but a lot of times your pass rush can cover it. We had one play, we missed a switch with our corner and our nickel, and we cut a guy loose down the field wide open. Safety was coming over, but it was going to be a big gain. But the pass rush covered that up. We got a sack on that play. So, whether you get a sack, you take the quarterback off of that, there's a lot of different ways for your pass rush to be successful. We're still a work in progress there. There's more we can go, but I think you're seeing good signs. I think, Fletch is obviously being a lot more impactful in the game, and that's great to see. I mean, this easily could have been a 3.5 sack game for him. It was a productive game anyway, but there's still more meat left on that bone. What'd you have, Les?
I'm sorry. The 3rd and 14 conversion Sunday, where the quarterback was rolling out, did you have 11 guys on the field then?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't see on the broadcast tape where the 11th guy was.
Yeah, you don't want to give up 3rd and 14s for sure. And I think there was 2 times, 3rd and long, we gave up plays. 3 times. And but 2 of the times that happened, quarterback was on the loose, and even though it was 3rd and long, we got too impatient in coverage and jumped up to stop. I mean, if it's 3rd down and 3, 3rd down and 4, that kind of stuff happens. But generally, you're playing tighter coverage, and you don't have those. But when you're playing your deeper zones, you have to have the discipline to stay back in those zones and sort of force the quarterback. If you're back at the sticks at 13 yards and the quarterback crosses the line of scrimmage, just do the math. You should be making that tackle for 6-7 yard gain, and the punt team should be coming on the field. But we didn't. I would say they tried to go back to that play you were talking, that same scheme. Later in the game, we had made an adjustment on the sideline, and Vinny Curry was at our defensive end, and he crossed the block that they had showed us. They hadn't really showed that scheme before, but they crossed it. He crossed it and pulled the quarterback up. I think it was a 3rd and 10 late in the game, and we were able to get a stop on it. So that was good to see us make that, or players make that adjustment to something that they hadn't seen before. Again, you guys, we always talk about halftime adjustments, but it's more inside a series, and I was proud of Vinny making that play.
Jim, because of the injuries that you guys have had, bringing in the 2 young defensive tackles last week, you have a new defensive end coming in as well. How do you try to create that continuity despite maybe the changing personnel along the line?
I mean, it can be a challenge, but we're up for the challenge. That's what this game is. There's different, deal with the cards every single week, and you got to learn how to best play the hand. And it might look different one week as opposed to, the other. I mean, every week, big deals made about, how many times we blitz or how many times we don't or whatever. I mean, you can count them up. We blitzed twice in this game. That's what we had to do in this game to get that win. We needed to keep it a little bit more simple for those guys up front because they'd only been on campus for a couple days. However you got to do it, you got to be able to come up with a way. It was good to get Darby and Jay Mill back out there, and that gave us the flexibility to be able to do a lot of that kind of stuff. But, every week's different.
Jay, do you think you have enough personnel-wise to be a championship caliber defense?
Well, again, we're a week-to-week team. We're not looking at anything other than this week. So, we'll see what we got this week and figure out a way to try to come out with a win. And, Doug's very consistent on that message. Try to go 1-0 this week, and let's not look further on down the line than that.
Jim, we know about defense.
You have 7 DNs on the team. I know that's probably just temporary, but how do you kind of balance that out if that's what you're going forward with?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way numbers work out sometimes. Just is what it is.
Jim, you mentioned Ronald coming back. How do you think he held up? How do you think he performed? And having Jalen the week before, those guys, do they give you that much more confidence to do some different things?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't give them a whole lot of help outside. We were giving help to inside, and even though sometimes it didn't look like it, we were putting a lot of attention on the quarterback for those scrambles because he was a hard guy to get down on the ground. The only help the corners really had was Mother Nature in that game. But they both battled and not only enabled us to play the rest of that scheme, but I thought they did a good job tackling and limiting some plays after that. And we were able to pick up some stops along the way and keep the score down.
We know about the importance of how playing with the lead for the offense. How did it affect you guys having the team play ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a couple turning points that way. I think it was 7-3 late in the second quarter. We were down in that game, and we were able to get that turnover, and the offense was able to turn that into points. I think that's the time we made 2 points.
Yes.
I never get a chance to watch, but that's a big difference going 7-3 at the end of the first half, being down as opposed to being up. Yeah, 8, whatever. I'm bad on math right now, but I thought that was, and that's something that, you haven't seen a lot from our team this year. That when we have been successful, defense has made a turnover, the offense has cashed it in, and a lot of times that's changed the game. And then I think on the other side of that, one of the things I saw that there's a lot of things that were sort of turning points in that game, but the other one is after we had fumbled the punt, we had just got to stop, and all of a sudden, I think it was a 1-score game at that point, and they got the ball, we were able to go get a stop and force a punt right there, and that's something we haven't seen from our defense a lot. You go back to the Dallas game, we turned it over a couple times and we gave up quick touchdowns. This is a good sign for us going forward. We went out and were able to get the job done. It doesn't always happen, but we're able to get the job done, force a punt right there, and I think we scored right after that. That ended up getting into, and once you really got that game into a 2-score game with the way the wind was and everything else, it obviously made it a lot easier to be able to handle a lot of that stuff. When it's 1 score, one guy slipping and falling on a wet field, or 1 ball over your head, or 1 missed tackle, or 1 missed assignment, and all of a sudden you can talk about a tie game. So it was important to get that 2-score lead right there and hold that 1-score lead. And I think you saw that, and I think that's a good sign for our team.
He's coming off a fairly horrific injury. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
In Maddox's case, he's coming off a horrific-looking injury when it happened. Is there a human element there or curiosity on your part about how a player is when they initially come back from that type of injury?
Yeah, I mean, we leave that up to our trainers. If our trainers say he's healthy enough to go, then we trust them and trust the player, and we'll get him out there as soon as we can.
I mean, in terms of hitting and things of that nature.
I mean, everybody's used to dealing with a lot of things. There's, shoulder injuries. There's, neck injuries. There's, all the guys that have had concussions or knee injuries or ankle injuries. These guys are tough players, and they all want to get back on the field as quick as they can. But when it's all said and done, that's what you have professionals for. You have doctors and trainers and stuff like that. And if they give them the green light, we'll get them out there. He was able to get back on the practice field last week, which was great to see, but it was sort of a non-contact thing, but they banged him around a little bit, and if he's feeling confident and he gets the green light, then we'll get him out there as soon as we can.
You mentioned, you alluded to BG strip sack there. Seems like the last month or so.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a strip sack because he was a designed run.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah.
But he counted it.
Did it?
I think so.
No, I don't think so. No, that was a run. Yeah, it was a run. They designed a lot of runs. That was like, that guy's hard to get down, and I'm all for protecting quarterbacks and everything else, but daggone, we had to tackle him like a running back, Anyway.
My point was just, it seems like it's been a really productive stretch for Brandon here about this last month. What have you seen from him? He's always been a high effort guy, but it seems like the plays have been there.
Yeah, he's playing tough. He's playing physical. He's playing inside a little bit on the pass rush stuff, but he mans that defensive end well. And that was a good running football team, a team that takes pride in being physical. And we were able to take that part of the game away from them. Other than a run on the last play of the game where they gained some yards and the quarterback scrambles, there wasn't a whole lot of space in there for those guys to run. And sometimes it goes lost in the job description. Everybody looks too much at sacks or looks so much at sacks and things like that they lose, those 3rd and 1 plays. We stopped 3rd and 1 on first series of the game, 3rd and 2 right there. It's hard. Like I've already moved on to the Bears. You guys haven't moved on to the Bears yet, but I already have. So I always pass.
Jim, you mentioned how difficult it was to get Josh down at times. I think I saw a couple of 4 linebacker looks. Was that weather or was that more Josh?
Well, I was matching their personnel. They were in 2 tight ends, 2 backs, only 1 wide receiver on the field. So we got good contributions out of Duke and TJ in this game. We saw some good signs from those guys. So, that was encouraging also.
You mentioned Fletcher Cox having a really good game. He was playing next to 3 guys really who never played in the NFL. What
Bruce played a little bit for us last year.
I'm sorry, Bruce, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But my point is 3 guys who don't really have much experience.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen lately out of Fletcher? It seems like the past few games he's been, all around the quarterback.
Yeah, we all expected him to come around. Maybe it's taken a little longer, than he had in mind. But, he came back from a pretty significant injury and missed all of training camp. I think it just goes to show you it's hard to just pick right up at that point and, be back to the player that we saw in the New Orleans game at the end of the year last year. But each game he's trended a little bit better. He's played pretty well. And again, it's not just a numbers game. It's just not whether he's having sacks. It's the disruptions. It's, forcing other players. When we played the Jets, I thought he played an outstanding game in that game. It didn't show up on the scoreboard or in the scorecard with sacks, but 2 other sacks that I can think of were a direct result of Fletch being disruptive. So, getting him back to that regardless of what his individual stats say, it's a team game. And we're trying to keep the score down, we're trying to get off the field on 3rd down, and we're trying to create turnovers. And he can help us do all 3 of those things.
Malcolm Jenkins, someone questioned his accountability last week. How did that strike you when you heard something like that? And what do you think of Malcolm's performance after those comments?
We got a lot of confidence in Malcolm. Malcolm's played a lot of games for us. Criticism comes with this job, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, personnel, everybody. Criticism's part of the thing, and bottom line is going out and getting wins. And you get wins, and everything's great. And you lose, and people are going to look at a lot of different reasons that you're losing. We have confidence in all the guys in our locker room. I've said a million times, if you're on our 53, we got confidence in you. If you're on our 46, we have confidence in you. And we try to treat ourselves or act accordingly and go from there. All right, guys.
How y'all doing?
What's the, you guys have had 2 road games where you've run the ball. I think it was 180 something in Green Bay and 2 something. What goes into kind of making that a consistent thing? You've been a little up and down with that.
To run for 200 yards?
No, just to make it an effective, consistent part of the offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, I think every team faces that challenge each and every week to establish the run, to be able to do it for a full 4 quarters. And the amount of success that we had the other day is obviously a credit to those 5 or 6 guys, or really the everybody that's involved in the run game. The offensive line starts there. The tight ends did an excellent job of blocking at the point of attack and on the backside of a lot of these runs where the ball gets cut back to, and then on the perimeter with the receivers and their blocking with the secondary. So there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of things got to go right. And we had a good, I think, a good game plan, put a good game plan together, and the guys went out and executed it really well.
Like, how much of it was, having some new looks? I know every game you always try to get at least something. Maybe it's not new, but something that you haven't shown before. Sometimes they work,
wrinkles,
sometimes they
little
don't.
wrinkle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much did that help you in this game, and how much is you going to need that going forward?
Yeah, I think we're always searching for those things, like you said, each and every week to try to find that needle in the haystack, so to speak. And we were able to get an explosive run out of it. I think you're referring to Miles' long touchdown run, which a little bit of a new presentation for us. We've been in some two-back presentations and done some different things throughout the course of the season. But again, that goes back to the execution, which was excellent. I mean, we had all 5 guys covered up. We're displacing the line of scrimmage. We're getting into the linebackers, in the second level, and the linebackers doing a great job there. And then Jordan Howard as a lead blocker just shows, how complete a football player and how unselfish he is. And Miles, and his speed to be able to go the distance. So great vision, hit the hole, hit it fast, and then be able to go the whole way.
Mike, after the fumbles.
Those 2 other runs, he only ran it 3 times, but he ran with a lot of self-assuredness, a lot of conviction. How much of an improvement in that aspect have you seen from him?
Well, I think it's been week to week, and you see those strides every week. We have a ton of confidence in Miles as a ball carrier. He's made a lot of impactful plays in the passing game as well. And you're just seeing the growth of a young player who's got a really bright future.
You guys obviously stuck with him after those 2 fumbles, and what have you seen him
Yeah.
in that regard? He hasn't had anything since then. How has he handled that?
Well, I would say for Miles, he's very conscientious and very prideful. And I think he took, those turnovers very personally. And, he's done a really good job of taking care of the football. And you got to continue to do that. That's every time you touch the ball, that's got to be the priority, because guys in this league are so good at attacking the football, punching it out, pulling it out. So as soon as you let your guard down, that's when you're susceptible, and he's done a great job of taking care of the football.
Did he make any technical adjustments? I know Deuce has his, 4 points of
Yeah,
whatever.
four points of pressure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I think we just, go back and reemphasize that, like we talked about at that time. And, not that we hadn't been emphasizing it with him. It hadn't shown to be any kind of a problem, but just to understand that, the holes close quickly, that the spaces are tighter in the NFL, and just learning how to be an NFL running back. And he's doing a great job.
Isaac Seumalo, you mentioned Jordan Howard on that lead ISO block.
Isaac cleared out
cleared
he
early.
did.
He had a
And we cut the backside of the defense, did a great job, really cut the defense in half. And Andre, they're on the play side, did a great job of turning the defensive end out and making sure that he didn't cross face. So we had a big hole there. It was well designed, well executed.
Zach seemed a little frustrated after the game, obviously the last couple games, the ball hasn't found him. The guy who's been in the league that much, so accomplished, do you guys try to make it a point, let's get him involved early, or is it just kind of the ball's going to find who the ball finds?
Both. Yeah, both. I know how important this team is to Zach and how important winning is to Zach, so I think that he puts that before anything else. But we certainly are trying to utilize his skill set. He's a big part of the reason why we win. I think we had him as a primary target, certainly in the first 8 passes that were called in the game, and the ball just didn't go there. And sometimes that's the way football goes. But I think that he understands that. And I think if he is frustrated, which he hasn't expressed that to me, but if he is, it's only because he knows that he can help us win games. So I think he's more pleased with the score and the outcome of the game than anything else.
What is Jeff Stoutland's role in terms of helping to put the game plan together? Like, what's that process like?
I think he's a run game coordinator.
Behind the scenes, how's it work with you guys? I mean, what's the process? How does that happen?
Yeah, so he's the run game coordinator, and the run game guys, they meet on the runs, and then we all get together, run game, pass game. We're talking, coordinating formations and things like that, and trying to make sure that we're presenting the same look and doing different things out of those looks.
Like, how important was it for you guys to remain patient, even though things maybe because of the wind and the conditions weren't exactly clicking offensively, and then obviously after the big turnover, you guys were able to pounce on that?
Yeah, the wind was a factor for sure. It was a factor for both teams, and it impacted some decisions whether to go for two, like you saw us do after we scored the first touchdown. Where we were going into the wind there. So it was certainly trying to find your footing, so to speak, in terms of how to best play the game based on the weather conditions. And I think that we did that. The turnover was significant, gave us a lot of momentum there, and we were able to control really the middle eight of the game there, get that touchdown and get the ball back to start the second half, and then we popped the long run, so we got 2 touchdowns there back to back, and I guess it was less than maybe 2 minutes of game time, something like that.
What does that Bears defense show you? Their numbers are pretty good on paper, certainly.
Oh yeah, I mean, we played them in January, so we've got recent history with them. We know how talented they are. Their front seven certainly is very dynamic and can wreck the game. They got a number of guys up there that can wreck the game, but they do a great job with their scheme and freeing those guys up and trying to create one-on-one matchups for those guys. And there's more than one guy. Obviously, Khalil Mack gets a lot of the headlines, but they got a lot of really good players in there. The linebackers do a great job of rushing themselves and creating matchup issues on running backs. And their scheme is good, and they're good on the back end. I think Kyle Fuller's got 18 interceptions or something like that over the last 3 or 4 years. So I think he leads either the NFC or the NFL in interceptions. So they got guys back there covering on the perimeter, doing a great job. So they're very talented and got a great scheme.
Would you expect Mac to be against Andre Dillard? Would
Pardon?
you expect them to put
They move him around. Yeah, so I know that we'll see that matchup at some point in the game, but they do move around. He plays on our right, and he'll play on our left.
Does that make it harder to help somebody?
Because they move him around. We just got to be aware of where he is, obviously, and try to make sure that we minimize his impact as best we can. Andre's done a great job the last 2 weeks, so we got a lot of confidence in Andre.
Doug had mentioned the other day that you guys got the sense that the opposing defenses are sort of keying in on Miles when he's on the field. How much are you cognizant in-game of the usage pattern for him? I think before the turnover, every play he was on the field was a pass. How much are you cognizant in the middle of the game of keeping track of that stuff?
In the middle of the game, I would say this. In terms of putting the game plan together, we're trying to be very balanced in terms of who's in there and carrying the football. So we're very cognizant of it there and making sure that it is, we've always kind of had the running back by committee approach, and we feel like whoever's carrying the ball is going to do it exactly the way we want it done, and I think it's just a little bit how the game falls in terms of when he's in there and what we're asking him to do. But because of the impact that he's made, the explosive plays that he's made, he's going to draw attention. Yeah, and Stout and all of us, as an offensive staff, a lot goes into that, in terms of the run game and the passing game and trying to move the different guys, the different pieces of the puzzle that we have available to us on offense, try to put them in position to do the things that they do really well, and try to find new ways to get them into that position, present different ways of doing that, but have the guys do the same jobs that they're accustomed to doing and got a lot of comfort in.
Mike, what was your evaluation of Carson's performance after watching the film?
I think he did a great job handling the elements, number one, certainly bringing his team home a winner, 17-24 if I'm not mistaken, and very difficult circumstances. you know, he saw a couple of the balls that he threw, just the wind, just knock it completely off target. So, you know, the wind and not so much the rain. It wasn't too bad from a precipitation standpoint. But he did a great job managing the game, getting us into the right plays, doing that on the road, also in handling our stuff at the line of scrimmage and getting everything communicated there. So I thought he had a great command of the offense, both in the huddle and his decision making. You know, when to tuck it and run, get himself down, keep himself out of harm's way, extend drives. Really productive game for him.
You mentioned,
Jordan
you
Howard
saw
showed-
Chicago in January. There is a change schematically. Big's gone, who I think you were close with.
Yeah.
Chuck Pagano. Have you seen much of a change? Or are they kind of running the same stuff?
There's some carryover from what they were doing last year, but then there's obviously you know, Coach Pagano's spin on things and the way that he's accustomed to doing things. But a lot of the same faces, you know, that we're looking at across the ball from us. So you know, we've got a physical challenge, and I know our guys are excited about it. Excited about being back home and playing this football game against the Bears. We know we got a great challenge, and this is the kind of games that the Philadelphia Eagles like to play in. So we're excited to get back to work on Wednesday. Not business as usual. You know, we're going back to work, rolling up our sleeves, and excited about it.
Jordan Howard showed you like aspects of his game that maybe you didn't expect when you guys got him last spring.
No, I thought we were getting a really complete football player. There's a lot of talk about you know, Jordan in the passing game. He had a heck of a play the other day on a screen. You know, we've showed confidence in him from day one as a pass catcher, and he certainly has rewarded that confidence and made plays for us in the passing game. And you could see how you know, in a game like that where he could really push the pile, was patient, picked his holes, was always pushing the pile forward, falling forward for an extra couple yards. Was a big reason why we were able to control the clock and the time of possession like we were, and be able to run for 200 plus yards. So I think that the line gets excited and knows that you know, he's going to pick the right spots, and we're going to keep pushing that ball forward.
A sentiment that Jordan shared with us was that he's kind of getting back to the player he was his first 2 years, and he wasn't especially happy with the way last year went. What is he doing from what you've seen that maybe either wasn't there on film or that's better than was there on film?
That would be hard for me to speculate, Zach. I just, without really knowing, you know, going back 2 years, without really knowing what was going on with him then, I just know that this is a very purposeful player. He's a true pro. He's a great teammate. He's unselfish, and he'll do whatever we ask him to do, whether it's run the ball or it's block for a teammate or it's catch the football. And he doesn't ask for anything in return. I think he just he loves the game of football. He loves being on this team, and he's been a great teammate. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Did you answer my
Yeah.
question? Not without
Okay.
a little bit of, I don't know.
How could I answer it better? So Stout organizes the run game,
Right.
and like we do with everything upstairs, we're collaborating on all passes and all runs, and we go in and we work through the tape, and we go through that process. We exhaust the tape by personnel, by formation, by situation, all situations that come up. First, second down, third down, red zone, and then we put our plan together. Is that?
It's better than tell me what his title is. Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I understand what his title is. I'm
I
just looking for
apologize for that.
insight for behind the scenes.
I apologize.
Thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.